He had to report in 3 days, and he reported it at someplace in Illinois. And he said, "Don't worry, I'll be back," because we just moved to Lansing and everything. We were only there a little over a month or so. And he said, "I'll be back. Don't worry, they won't take me, you know." So anyhow, he called up and he said, "I'm going to California." I said, "You're going to California?" He said, "Yeah, and I can't come home. I'm leaving from here." I said, "Oh, that's terrible, terrible." Pretty soon I get another call from him saying, "No, Uli's going to California. O-O-L-E-Y. Uli's going to California. I'm going to Illinois." And that's when he went to Scottsfield, Illinois.
Oh, that's when you lived in Paxton?
And when we moved to Paxton. So then Uncle Joe and my friend Claire came up and moved me and everything, and I waited at home. And then when he got his orders and got us a place to live, and that's when we bought the big house in Paxton.
Where did you live in, not in St. Louis, but right outside of St. Louis, didn't you?
Yeah, that was-
Scottsfield, in
Yeah.
Belleville, Illinois.
Belleville, Illinois. We lived in Belleville.
This is in 1957. And my dad and mom went down to visit them. In 1957.
Couldn't be 57. I was born there in 52.
Yeah, 57. It was 57. Mom and Dad were visiting you.
Yeah, but he was born in 52.
I don't care when he was born. This is in 1957.
But I wasn't in Belleville.
Well, where were you?
He and Andy were both living there with you.
He was born at Scottsfield.
Mom and Dad came and visited you. What was that?
Didn't we go to
guy's
Chanute?
name?
With the with the
Okay.
Italian.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. This is 1957.
Benelli's.
The Braves were playing the Yankees for the World Series, and it was 3-2. The Yankees were winning 3-2, and they went to back to New York for the final 2 games or 1 game.
Who was pitching?
The guy that was pitching, I think, was Lou Burdette.
Okay.
Eddie Matthews Eddie Matthews was at third base.
Get on with it.
Logan was on shortstop. Red Shandies was the second base. Joe Adcock was the first baseman, and Del Crandall was the catcher.
What did you have for breakfast this morning?
Now wait a minute.
Ask him who the president of the United States was at that time. He won't tell you, but he can tell you who was the shortstop.
Okay, let me finish. And so, and we had worked. The Unico people was an Italian organization. Was a good friend of Al Oliver, who worked for Perini, who owned the Braves at that time, and Tommy Ferguson, that had Italian roots from his mother's side or something like that. And he was in the Unico, and he worked for. He was the
Usher.
He was the attendant for the visiting teams when they came in. He took care of all their needs and stuff like that. Anyhow, Kenny Emerson, my best friend, came up to me and says, "Let's go to New York." And I said, "Oh, Kenny," I said, "I can't go to New York. I just had a baby boy, and I can't get away. My mom and dad are in St. Louis or wherever they were then." And I said, I can't afford it. And he says, I'll pay for everything. You know, Kenny he's worth a lot of money. Anyhow, I said, well, I'll see if I can arrange it. So I arranged it. I talked to some of the bartenders, and then I says, I got a chance to do this. Can you handle everything? Yeah, okay, we'll take care of things. Then I went home and I talked to Carol, and I said, Kenny wants to take me to New York for the World Series. And she says, the only way I'll let you go is if you fly commercial, not go on somebody's plane, because he had some guy was originally going to fly us there, and she was worried about the insurance, I think. So anyhow, we get to New York, and we got there early in the morning, and we were looking for a hotel room. We went to the Waldorf Astoria. We went a lot of different places, and the Brewers the Braves at that time were staying at the Biltmore, And so we went to the Biltmore, and we saw a bunch of guys from Waukesha, and you know that traveled with the team. They were guys from Merrill Hills, Condale and Les Smith, and all these guys that were friends of some of the Braves players. So I went up to the desk and I asked for a room, and the guy said, "Oh," he said, "we're all booked up. We don't have anything." So I said, "Okay." So we went down and sat down with these guys, and they got us tickets for the ball game. And so I said to Kenny, I said, "Hey, Kenny, I'll be right back." I had a business card from the Como Hotel. It says Como Hotel, Sam Rucci, owner, and so forth. And I went up to the desk and I gave this guy, I says, "Hey, anything you could do for me, I'd appreciate it." And I says, "I'm the owner of the hotel here." He says, "Oh, okay." So we're sitting down there talking to these guys. Pretty soon this guy says, "Call my name, Mr. Rucci." Went up to the desk, he says, "I got a room for you." So he gave us a room. So we go to the next game that day, or the next morning, whatever it was.
This was at the World Series in New York?
New York, World Series. And the Braves won that game, and he tied it up 3-3. Now whoever won the next game, the next day, is the world champions. So we're sitting on the first base side, and the game is real close, and it's getting down to the last few innings, at like 7th inning or something like that. And I said to Kenny, I says, "Kenny, let's go down to on the third base side where the Brewers are in the dugout." I says, if they happen to win this game, all the cameras are going to be right on these players. They will be standing up on top of the dugout. So we did. We went down there, and Eddie Matthews got the last out, took the guy out, and we stood up on the dugout. And sure enough, my mom and dad my dad was especially watching the game, and no, my mom said to my dad, she says, "That's Joe." And my says, no, that's not Joe. Ro, you're crazy. You're seeing things. That's not Joe. He's taking care of the tapper. And she says, "That's Joe."
It's supposed to be
So,
taken.
yeah. So when we got back, my mom asked me, she says, "Were you at the World Series?" I says, "Yes." She says, "See, Sam, I told you that was Joe." Because all the cameras went right there.
Sure.
All the players were running to the dugout, jumping on each other and all that stuff. And we had a good time.
This is a good example of a lifetime pattern. You were always you're always
hustler.
thinking ahead. You're always manipulating
hustler.
everything to your advantage. You're good at that.
I got to tell you this story. The night before the game, we went to the Latin quarters, and we go in the Latin quarters, and we said to the guy, "We're going to have dinner," So he sits us down on a table, and here's the stage. The stage is way over here. The girls come out and they go around the stage and they parade, and they got the feathers on, and beautiful women, And so we're sitting at this table way down from the stage, and we're kind of cramped. I says to Kenny, he says, "President, we're going to eat here. I can't eat like this. I can't eat like this." I says, "You got a $10 bill or $20? I forget what it was. $10, $20." He says, "Yeah." I says, "Give it to me." So I took the 20 and I rolled it up so you could see the 20, and I also had a buck in my hand too. So I go to the guy. I says, "Hey," I says, we're going to have dinner." I says, "Can we get a better table?" And I showed him the 20, and he says, "Oh, yes, sir." He says, and he goes like this, and he starts walking over by the stage, and I slipped him the 1.
Sit down so he can see you.
I slipped him the 1, and so we sat right on. Oh, we had a table by ourselves, just a nice table like this, and the stage is going right down this way, and we could see the stage girl's real nice. And this guy kept looking at us. Oh, he's staring me down. He was staring me down. He says, "This hokey pulled one over on me."
I'll never forget. We went to Saperstein's wedding down
Oh
in Chicago.
yeah.
I was thinking of that too.
And we weren't invited, but we went along. We sort of shook hands with everybody. But then Joe and I went across the street to the College Inn,
College Inn.
Sherman Hotel.
Yeah.
Well, remember, tell them who the Sapersteins were.
Well, he was, he owned the
He
Harlem
owned the Harlem
Globetrotters.
Globetrotters.
And his daughter was a real good friend of our cousin's, Cecilia Reno. And so they were all invited up there to the wedding.
Mom and Dad, all the family
Yeah,
was.
they were all invited. But Joe and I went across the street to the College Inn hotel there and sat down and had a big steak dinner.
We want the biggest steak you got.
We
Biggest
got the
steak you
biggest steak. We're sitting there and eating that big steak. After dinner, Joe,
Excuse me just a minute.
okay,
This guy comes over and
the violin.
he starts playing with the violin.
Oh.
And I'm start sticking, I don't know what the hell I was sticking, $5 bills on him and all that. And then all of a sudden he decides to take off. And I said, hey, wait a minute, stay right here. I kept feeding them the money, see? So then they bring us a meal. Go ahead, you talking.
So we had a great dinner, beautiful Chicago steak dinner. And Joe had to excuse himself to go to the men's room. So I'm sitting there just waiting, and time passes by. Geez, minutes go by, and no Joe. And the guy's bringing me the bill. And I don't have any money. And I said, well, just a minute. Excuse me, but I'll be right back. So I'm going looking for Joe in the men's room. So you go in there, and she's not in there. I'm looking under the stove. There's Joe on the floor. He got sick. He got thrown up.
There's a fat on the meat.
And I had a
And
brand
he
new
wanted,
suit on.
and he was all dressed up, and he was still as sick as he was alert enough to get paper towels, like it was like the dead man on the
I had paper
the
towels
crime
like that.
scene, like the crime scene. You had the paper towels, the paper towels down there were his legs and stomach, and he's flat ass drunk out, and I'm trying to revive him. I said, Joe, you got any money? Yeah, it's in my shoe.
Take my shoe off. I said, take my shoe off.
I thought I had $100 bill or whatever else. Go pay the bill.
Then we get back to the hotel, to the reception, and they want us to come into the reception. He had the dancing waters and all that stuff. He had a big reception.
And the waiters playing
And
Sweet
so
Georgia Brown.
he went up and said, "Gee, Joe's not feeling well. Joe's not feeling well." I was down in the vestibule when you first go into the hotel, and I'm laying on a slab there. And my mom comes in, oh, poor Joe, he got sick on the steak.
He got sick on the fat of the steak.
The fat of the steak. And Abe Saperstein, the owner, he took me up to the suite where they were changing their clothes and stuff, where they had a room for the bride and groom, and I slept it off. And then when it was time to go home, I said to my dad, I says, you better let me drive. I said, because I know this place real well. I've been in back and forth to the Great Lakes so many times. I said, I know the roads real well. So I drove but I was drunk out of my mind prior to that. But I had that new suit on. I can remember that gray suit with the stripes on. The beautiful suit.
You were going to get it dirty.
I had a Countess Mara tie on.
You're dressed to the nines.
Yeah. And I laid out these towels. I laid out these towels like he says, a crime scene. I didn't get a spot on my clothes.
You were always very neat. You were